it's about assessing that risk, mitigating the risk, and then to a degree, actually being prepared to take that risk. Glass walking's fantastic. I love glass walking. It's the absolute opposite of the firewalk. Massive action of the right stuff consistently equals results.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 62 of the Optimize Me Now podcast, your peak performance show, bringing you fantastic, amazing, inspiring stories from great people the world over. My name is Jamie Keeling and I am your host for today and every time this show comes out to your ears. If this is your first time listening, then thank you so much for joining us. This goes out live every week on a Friday through Facebook, so please make sure you connect with me over there to get the video version, and you can even ask your questions live. Please do come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for my handle at the Jamie Keeling. And if you're a business owner, I usually tell you to join my Better Business Academy free business coaching group on Facebook. Now, of course, you are welcome to do that. However, in the last week, I have launched a revolutionary piece of technology called the Bulletproof Business app. You can get this now on the App Store. You can get it on the Play Store. Even if you are a filthy Android user, I have got something very special for you. So go to the App Store now, go to the Play Store, type in Bulletproof Business and get the app downloaded. It is a private social media network with zero ads, zero pictures of people's dinner, and zero pictures of people's kids on their first day at school. What it does have though is all the best content from me and from my selected partners around building your business and taking it from either 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 figures in a way that is profitable, sustainable, and doesn't eat up 16 hours, 7 days a week. So get in there. We've got accountability modules coming live in the next few weeks. We've got quizzes, we've got training. It is so functional, it is unreal. It is nothing like any app you've seen before. So get yourselves into the Bulletproof Business app. Go and download it now from the Play Store and join in the fun. And if you also love this show and get value from it in any way, then you can support us by becoming an official patron on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/optimize me now and you can see what levels you can sign up and the kind of benefits you can get by becoming an official supporter. Now, all the links are in the show notes, so let's get into this today. My guest today is Mr. Dave Holloway. Dave is a LinkedIn expert working with businesses to improve their strategy for finding, connecting, and engaging with their ideal prospects. He's also the trustee of his own company, SSAS. That's a small self-administered scheme pension, and he describes this as being a real turning point in his wealth creation strategy. He's also a keynote speaker, NEBOSH qualified, and I'll let him explain what that means to you in a little while. And get this, ladies and gents, not only does he have one of the most phenomenal beards I've ever seen in my life, but he is a certified firewalking instructor. So please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Mr. Dave Holloway. How are you, Dave?
Oh, Jamie, mate, thank you very much. Yes, you've dug deep there.
Oh, I always do my research, Dave. Of that, you can be guaranteed. So, how are you, sir? Are you doing well?
Oh, yeah, very well indeed. Yeah, yeah, delighted to be here as well. So, yeah, thanks very much for inviting me and having me on.
My pleasure, and thank you so much for carving the time out to be with us today. And as I mentioned earlier, for bearing with me this morning. So, firstly, let's talk about firewalking. What on earth inspired you to become a certified, not just a firewalker, right? A certified firewalking instructor. Talk us through that.
Yeah, and certified, I think in some people's minds is means different things to different people, doesn't it? Yeah, some people would think you would need to be certified indeed. Do you know, it's one of those things. It wasn't. Let me say, it wasn't a desired or an intended plan from the outset that was something that I was looking to do or intending to do. Like a lot of things in life, it came around in a slightly circular way. But having said that, I'm having done that and becoming a certified trainer, it opened my eyes to lots of other things as well, which I found really, again, you go down one route and things just sort of popping off the sides of them and things like that. So what actually got me to do it is because I do some work with a very good friend and colleague of mine who does some, amongst other things, some firewalking. And he said to me, look, if you're going to help out, if you're going to be on the crew, why don't you go along and get yourself certified? And you've got up-to-date training, because his training's a few years older. And so I went along all sort of, I suppose, slightly naively to a degree, and did a 4-day training session, which involved firewalks into the 3 figures. So yeah, it was an intense 4 days. Yeah.
So it was just constant firewalking then. How do you train to be a firewalk instructor? What's the process? As an instructor, it's to instruct people to be able to firewalk. So it's to take your delegates across the coals, if you like. So not only is there a lot of work around the actual logistics, how you build the file, where you build the file, what you need to be in mind to keep everything and everyone else safe as well. Because there's an inherent risk with fire. So not just the actual walk-in at the end of it, but the preparation and all the things that go on before the event. And like a lot of things, it's the work at the front end, and maybe a huge amount of work in relation to the overall. But you get it all in at the front end, and you get the results at the end of it. So a great deal of it is about the preparation, what you need to be aware of, and even to the point of when you shouldn't do it. But then once you've got that side of it sorted out, the fire side and everything there's ready and prepared, you've then got a group of people, many of whom would never have done something like that before, to prepare. And so part of that, again, is that preparation for them, for their mindset and how they're going to approach the fire or the coals. And then at the point of actually taking that decision and committing to crossing, again, getting them into the right state, right frame of mind, the right energy, and then ultimately saying to them, right, now you decide, do you walk or not, and see where they go with it. And state's such a big part of it, isn't it? And what do you get out of firewalking? What was it that was so profound for you?
I think always. I mean, I said on the training, I'd already done some firewalking before I did the training, and although we did 3 figures, 100, and I think the total number was 120 or thereabouts during the 4 days. It was important to me to always remember that first one, because that's the one where you've got no concept. You may have seen other people in the same event crossing, but you got to that one point, you get to the front, you look down, you've got the coals in front of you, and then you've got to decide. But once you've made that decision, you've walked and you've crossed and you're okay, you look back at how you were maybe a few seconds before, or what was going through your mind, and then realise, how much of that was totally irrelevant and was actually holding you back. And then straight away, especially if you're in a good environment with I would say a trainer that's thought about things, is because you can then think, hang on a minute, I've just done that. What else either haven't I been doing? Where have I been holding? The metaphors and the way that can translate to things within life, within business generally. And for some people, just that first walk is a profound experience. And it's taking away that learning, really, and just, I just
totally agree.
That feeling.
Totally agree. I first did a firewalk. Well, I've only ever done one firewalk, but I did that at UPW, the Unleash Your Power Within Tony Robbins event back in 2017. And it was a great experience. Wasn't anywhere near as profound for me as you've described there. And I'll explain briefly the reason why I felt that was. Now, it was a great experience, but when we did it, it was at the Excel Centre. And by the time we got to the firewalk, it was quite late on, and outside was wet and it was cold. And I felt very much that by the time, because there was obviously thousands of people at Tony Robbins' event, by the time we got to the point where I was there ready to walk across the coals, my feet were completely numb from the cold and the wet from being outside anyway. So I kind of felt like I was cheating just a little bit just because of the circumstances. And for that reason, it wasn't as profound for me as an experience I'd had earlier in the year at Millionaire Mind Intensive, which is a T. Harv Eker event that I'd been to. And at that event, we did a very similar mindset psychological exercise, which it did exactly what you've just described there for me. It showed how much our beliefs and our mindset can really hold us back and stop us from achieving things in life. But what we did at MMI was we actually snapped an arrow on our neck. So it was on this soft bit of our neck here. And you basically have somebody with a glove and a hand out like this. For those who are listening on the audio, I'm just holding a flat palm out. And the pointy end of the arrow is pointed into the neck. And then you've got to push with your neck into the arrow to snap it, to break it. Now, we watched the guy do this. Marcus de Maria, I think, was the presenter on the day. And we watched the guy do this on stage with one of the other trainers. And when you see the thing just explode and shatter, and you see all of those really, really sharp splinters as a result of it, for me, I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. It's like, I'll be the one where it splits and it goes straight through my neck and I'm pissing blood out everywhere. And I was really building it up in my mind. And so, but when we came around to doing it, the experience was really interesting, because when I first went to push, I didn't put my all into it. I didn't just go for it. I kind of just tested, just tried a little bit. And that was really, really painful. And there was just like, look, you've just got to go through. You've got to just imagine yourself at the other end and just go and not think about it. And just switching my mindset to allow me to do that, it didn't hurt at all. When I did it the second time and I went straight through, there was no pain. There was no block there. And it was almost like the pain and the blockage and the failure of the first attempt had been completely down to the way I was thinking about it and my own limiting beliefs around what might happen, what might go wrong. And I think it's the same thing for people who are doing the firewalk, right? Is that you build up in your mind all of these things that might go wrong, and like your feet are going to burn off and set on fire. I mean, for you, I can't imagine you were not worried about your beard just going up in flames that first time. Beards in fire, I can imagine, don't go very well together. But yeah, it was a really phenomenal experience for me. So do you train and teach that now then?
Yes, I do. And it's interesting. I'll just pick you up on what you said, actually. A couple of things there is, firstly, you mentioned with the arrow, and the first time you tried it, you just tested it. Yeah. That probably hurt you more and left more of a mark in your neck than when you did it.
100%.
It's that testing, that toying with it, that non-committal or lack of commitment, or lack of decision. And ultimately it's that decision. You make the decision. You don't think, oh, maybe I'll break it, or I'll try and break it, and just tap at it and just push it. And for, those people on the audio, I was slowly moving forward and backing away again. So you make the decision, and it's at the point of making the decision, bosh, you do it, you through it. And it's just with the firewalk, the decision is at the front of the cult. Yeah. And it's interesting how different types of experiences have a different resonance and a different meaning and feeling for different people. Again, partly driven by the circumstances and the event that you're in. And I know from what I've heard, I've never experienced a Tony Robbins event, but you've got thousands of people. So you're still having the experience, but there's a lot of people. There's a more of a it feels to me, I've not experienced it, but more of maybe a production line mentality to a degree, because they've obviously got to get it done, and there has to be an efficiency to it. Not to take anything away from it, but it's different things. And interestingly, I know that Tony Robbins was taught firewalking by a chap by the name of Tolly Burkhan in California. And I believe T. Harv Eker was trained with Tolly, because Tolly doesn't just do firewalking. He teaches arrow breaks, he teaches board breaking, bar bending, and a whole glass walking, whole host of things. And the people at the Firewalk Instructor Training Centre that I went to had been taught by Tolly. And Sanjay Shah, who's the chap that I work with the firewalking and other things as well, who sort of encouraged me to go and do the certification for the firewalking. He trained with Tolly Burkhan as well. Wow. So there's a lineage of people that have all trained possibly 20, 25 years ago. But initially, Tolly is the chap that's sort of credited with being the person that introduced firewalk training. Firewalking has been around for thousands of years, but to actually train people, to facilitate, to allow other people to experience it. And as I say, in amongst that wasn't just firewalking. So when I did my 4 days, we weren't just firewalking for 4 days. We were doing some other things. including arrows and other experiences, all designed to just test where you're going to make that decision and what you're going to get from it. And different things resonate more greatly. And in some cases, it's the not completing it as well. It's the not doing it. It's often said, we say with the firewalk, if you get to the front, if you get to the coals and you decide you're not ready and you're just not feeling it, you decide not to. And for some people, especially, there's a lot of other people around all doing it, to then stand there and say, actually, this isn't for me, not tonight, not today, I'll do it another time. That in itself can be a powerful decision.
That
to go
takes
against
strength,
the
doesn't
flow,
it?
to go against it. It absolutely does. Yeah. So it's not always a case of make the decision to do it and then do it. It can be make the decision not to do it. But again, as you said with the arrow break, by standing there and just pushing and trying and not doing it and sort of not committing, you're hurting yourself. So either decide to do it and do it, or decide not to do it and don't do it. But by not deciding either way and just faffing around and pushing and not doing it, you're hurting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I relate that to, being a martial artist, is board breaking. I suppose that's something that kind of falls into that category as well, of breaking through limiting beliefs and stuff. But if you kick or punch a board, it's all about accuracy and precision. If you're not committed, if you're not like prepared and going straight through that board, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna really hurt.
Yeah.
Like if you get that wrong and you're not committed to it, then you're gonna feel the board. But when you get it right, when you're spot on accurate, and when you just commit to going straight through, you don't feel a thing. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 blackboards, 1 whiteboard. When you commit and you get that accuracy on point and you go straight through, so long as you go through, you don't hit anything. You hurt yourself when you hold yourself back. And I think there's a big lesson in that. What other things like that have you done then? If because you mentioned that you did some similar other things during that 4 days, and which of the things that you've done did you feel was the most effective?
I want to. I'll be careful. I don't want to give away sort of too much of some of the. And it's interesting actually as well. Context is so important with a lot of these things. Yeah, but you said you did the firewalk. It was cold. It was raining. There were lots of people there. You felt you cheated.
Yeah.
So you can say, "Oh yeah, I did a firewalk. Didn't get much from it." And someone else will say, "Oh, I did a firewalk, and I got a complete shift in my outlook on my entire life, and I've never looked back."
Oh yeah,
that's as much to do with the context, I think, as well. So, yeah, particularly on the firewall construction training, we did a whole raft of different experiences, different challenges, and again, different things had a different resonance for different people. One of the interesting ones for me, we did a trust fall where we had a what would you describe it, like a platform to stand on. We were in groups of about 7 people. One person would go up, stand on the platform with their back to the others. The others were prepared in a specific sort of way with their arms out, cradle-like. And then the person on the platform turned their back, stood there, and just fell backwards. But keeping it now, again, for those that are listening on the audio, just staying straight. You just fell back straight.
Yeah. Now,
some people could do it easily. Some people couldn't do it at all. Some people tried and did a half-hearted attempt or a not committed attempt, and you could see the ones that weren't fully committed and fully believed they could do it didn't fall back in a sort of like keeping their body in a straight, rigid way. They sort of crumbled as they fell, which actually made it a lot harder for the people catching them, which then was more likely for someone to get hurt or injured.
Yeah.
So again, it made the point that lack of commitment, that lack of focus. Again, you were better to either say, yes, I can do it, or no, I can't do it. But to sort of try it-ish didn't benefit the person falling or the people trying to catch them, because they weren't ready necessarily for the way they fell. So yeah, we did a whole raft. For me, there were 1 or 2 things that were resonated hugely. Glass walking is fantastic. I love glass walking. It's the absolute opposite of firewalking, because your attention is completely a bit like when you said about breaking the board when you're kicking the board of that. It's about focus as well. You need to be 100% focused on what you're doing at that time, and that is glass walking is the same. Glass walking is a complete focus on what you feel through your feet, where you're placing your feet, where the pressure is, how quickly, how slowly. It's a 180 degrees opposite of a firewalk.
Wow.
Still demands some attention. The interesting thing with the glass walk is once you start, it's not going to be over quickly. It's not a rush. There's no rushing involved, but you're committed again.
Not something you want to mess up, I guess, either.
No. And again, because there is again, the interesting point. There's a risk in all of these things.
Yeah.
As there is with lots of things in life, but it's about assessing that risk, mitigating the risk, and then to a degree actually being prepared to take that risk.
Yeah, and it's
and be prepared to accept the consequences. And I think that part of the mindset of it is all right. So a potential consequence of a firewalk is a burn, of an arrow break is a cut to your neck, certainly bruising. That is a consequence. Are you prepared to accept it? Yeah. And if you're prepared to accept it, knowing that it's unlikely to happen, but it's that acceptance as well. It's so much of that is the mindset, and so much is in the environment in which you're sort of doing these sorts of things as well.
And it wouldn't be as profound if there wasn't so much risk, right?
No, absolutely. And then the final thing I would just mention from the firewalk training, we did some breath work. And breath work, the breath work that I did was very intense and quite personally for me was a I think profound experience. I'm careful with my words because personally for me it was a big thing. It was a very intense. And for anyone that's never done breath work, when I say to people, and I've subsequently done some breathwork training with the people from the Firewalking Instructor Training Centre. And you mentioned breathwork, and people generally, breathing. Yeah, we can all breathe. Well, yes, yes, we can all breathe. Subconsciously, our bodies know what to do, the in and out and breathe. There's a difference between what your body does naturally and what you can do again when you focus and give something 100%. And if you truly focus on something like your breath, give it 100% for a certain period, in a certain environment, in a certain setting, you can get some quite big results. Yeah. I'll say big because it's not quite. So careful of the wording, but so that again, there were loads of things there. So, and breath work is something that I'm incredibly interested in doing more with that. That's got some huge potential.
That's really interesting. You mentioned that about breathwork. It's something that I've touched on with the martial arts and probably more so with the system than any other. But we used to use breathwork in terms of movement, in terms of absorbing strikes, in terms of decreasing and eliminating pain, in terms of actually healing the body. I mean, some of this stuff probably sounds a bit woo-woo and a bit crazy to some people out there who are listening, I should imagine. But look, unless you've tried it, unless you've been through and practiced the techniques and done it with an open mind, like, why wouldn't you try it? If it's got the potential to create those kind of amazing effects, then give it a go. If it doesn't work for you, fine, it doesn't work for you, but it's not going to work for you unless you approach it with that open-mindedness.
Absolutely.
But the way we could control our bodies and heal and use it for pain management, I just found just crazy. It was just unbelievable almost. But there we were doing it. So totally agree that breathwork is a really powerful experience.
Yeah. I'll tell you, any training or seminar, any training or seminar I've ever been in, whenever any host or presenter mentions prefaces something with this, you might think this is a bit woo-woo. That's when my eyes open, my ears prick up, and I suddenly get really interested. So that's sort of where my passions really lie, I think, because as soon as the word woo-woo is mentioned, I'm thinking, this is the good bit now. This is why I'm here. So this is where we're going to learn something.
Well, it's interesting.
But you're so right. It's that open-mindedness as well, and being prepared to at least examine or see what's involved before you judge.
Well, when you look at things like mindset and the power of manifestation and law of attraction, all that kind of stuff, I think there is an element of that which is there's a bit of BS there in terms of selling a dream, but I think you only have to look at very real things in scientific terms. So I'm really interested in the woo-woo stuff, much like yourself. But I'm also very interested in science. And I think one of the biggest challenges right now is that we have disconnected the woo-woo, the spiritual side of life, from the scientific side of life, when I would argue that actually they are completely intertwined. They're very interconnected. You can't separate them. And I think that's holding back both elements, both spirituality and science, because they're not prepared to work with each other and consider how each can bolster the other. So when I'm looking at things that most consider woo-woo, I always like to look at the science behind it as well. And when you look at the power of the mind, for me, the best example I can give is the placebo drugs. If you when you think about it, science has proven that you can heal yourself by believing you're taking something that will heal you. That's madness. Yeah. If you can affect your physical body, your physiology with your mind, just by believing something, what's possible?
Absolutely. And it's again interesting you mentioned that, because I'm very interested in that side of things. It's as you say, the fact that the placebo effect is known to exist, because it's even got a name, and yet there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of research generated. You would think, well, you can understand, I suppose, why people who've got a financial interest in producing medication and producing things are probably not interested in developing something that contains no medication, that you take it and you feel better.
What, you mean the pharmaceutical industries are biased in some way?
I'm not saying that. No, you never know who's listening. But it's as you say, it's. Well, again, you can go to a fundamental level, and it's all energy. And as you said, I think this is what's happened: is you've got that sort of, I suppose it gets split between Eastern and Western generally.
Yes.
And it probably comes from the, would it be, I don't know, the sort of the Renaissance? Would it be the Renaissance or the something, the mid, I don't know, sort of from the 12th, 13th, 14th century onwards, when Western science was being developed. That's when I suppose the questions were being asked. How does it work? Why does it happen? And yet for thousands of years previously, people have been just knew that I don't know, is it willow that's a source of aspirin? And there are medications and herbs that you can take to make you feel better. And people were taking them because they knew it worked, but didn't either have the need or the thought to say, oh, I wonder how it works or why it works. The fact is it works. And it's a similar thing with firewalking. The first firewalk I ever did, there was a chap there with me. I was quite prepared to do it, and we were told it could be done, and then we saw some people do it, and I thought, oh, right, yeah, it can be done. All right, I'm up for this. Someone else was there with me was constantly, well, yeah, but how does it work? Do you think it's this? Do you think it's that? Could it be this? Could it be that? And I'm thinking, well, I don't care. In a nice way, I don't need to know exactly what the ins and outs of it are. I've seen it can be done. I've been told it can be done. I've now seen it can be done. It's up to me to decide whether I can do it or not. And as I say, I think with from that placebo effect thing, that's that separation, if you like, from that sort of Eastern philosophy of these natural things work. You look at the Chinese acupuncture. I mean, how many thousands of years has that been around for? And yet Western medical science would say, oh, putting a needle, you can't have an operation without an anaesthetic. And yet I'm sure I've seen documentaries where, people have had acupuncture whilst having an operation. So they're fully conscious, but the acupuncturist is keeping them numb in the area where the operation's happening. Yeah, but Western science is saying, medical science is saying, look, we need to understand why. Well, if acupuncture has been working for thousands of years based on energy flow within the body and allowing the body to do things to itself whilst it's undergoing trauma, we know that if you had a massive industrial accident and severed a limb, you don't bleed to death in seconds. Your body, that blood's rushing out. The body does things quickly and traumatizes you, and the adrenaline and all the things that kick in to stop you dying that quickly. And people survive that sort of thing. So the body is incredibly powerful. Again, it's just all energy. It's all energy. And if you go down that quantum physics route, you end up at sort of nothingness, and they
end up in
struggle.
A crazy old world.
Yeah, and then they sort of almost come in full circle to say, well, we don't understand it, which is where they were in the first place. But
yeah, the best thing I heard about quantum physics as a description was talking about the Large Hadron Collider, and they were talking about, right, well, to understand how crazy quantum physics is, here's basically what happens. Like when you're firing two protons around the Large Hadron Collider and smashing them into each other, you get all this, like, you don't get bits of protons, you get all this wacky, crazy stuff. It's like, imagine taking a banana and whizzing them at like 1,000,000 miles an hour around this Hadron Collider, and then when they smash together, you don't get a bunch of banana gloop, you get apples and fucking oranges. Like, what's that all about? How does that work? But that is quantum physics. That's literally what they're seeing from doing those experiments. And I think it's really interesting when you talk about everything's energy. And again, that's one of those things that you say, and some people would think, that's woo-woo spiritual bullshit, and everything's energy. Well, look, it's solid. I can see it. I can touch it. But when you think about it, everything at the beginning of time was energy, and all matter is all this stuff that we see. Even us, we're stardust, but what's stardust? Stardust is energy condensed. You look at all of this stuff, all of the atoms, because everything's atoms. If you sped all that up, if you added more energy into all of this stuff around us, it would disconnect and it would just turn into this massive glob of energy. And so quite literally, all the physical stuff we see around us, from the stars and the planets to the laptop and our phones, is literally condensed energy. Everything is energy. And in that sense, again, when you look back and you look at the Big Bang Theory, not the program, the actual theory, and like everything was in one very, very small space, which means we have this quantum superposition. What that means is that when things are quantumly intertangled like that, when you separate them, there's this instant communication at a distance. And so that feeds into then the theory of, well, okay, well, that makes sense then, how actually everything is connected. You know, these spiritual gurus talk about everything's connected and you are the universe, man. Well, kind of, yes, in a certain kind of way. And they've proven through experiments that through quantum entanglement, you do get this instantaneous communication at a distance. And it's like, if that's happening, again, what are the possibilities for how we interact with those energy systems and what we can access beyond ourselves and beyond our physical realm? And my God, did this get deep quick. Again, I completely agree. It's so incomprehensible that by striving to try and comprehend and answer the questions, you're just generating more questions for a start. You go deeper and deeper. It's deep, but I wouldn't disagree with any of that at a level. It's like you were saying about people. It's easy to go, oh yeah, that's a solid table, that's all solid, but that's through your visual perception of that tiny piece of the visual light that you can perceive at the levels and the distances and the magnification. Because we know that if you go deep enough and you get to that atomic level, there's more gap than there is stuff. So if there's more gap than there is stuff at that level, then the fact that you've come up so far away from it and you can't see the gaps from the solid doesn't mean that the gaps aren't there. It's all just stuff. Everything, it's all resonating. We're all resonating. We've all got energy. Everything's got a movement to it that we can't see. You know, it's like when you take you put energy into anything, pot of water, you put energy in, it boils, it just moves faster. Yeah. You've increased its energetic level. So it's still water, and then it becomes steam, and you freeze its ice, you take energy away, it changes shape and form. It's going on around us all the time. And how can we not be part of that? Because we're made up of the same stuff that everything else is made up of, just in a slightly different configuration. And then we've got this thing inside our heads that tells us it's our mind, and it's got all this, all these answers and all these other things that it throws into it. But ultimately, everything's made of the same basic stuff. Yeah, and like you say,
yeah.
it is empty space. To give people some context, an atom, which is typically a nucleus made up of protons and neutrons, and then has an orbiting electron or several orbiting electrons in different levels, the ratios between the nucleus and those electrons are pretty similar to a football field. So if you put a pinhead in the very middle of a football stadium, that would represent the size and location of the nucleus. The first electron field would be whizzing around the outside of the football stadium. Like, that's the kind of space that we're talking about in one single atom. And when you think about, like, everything is made up of atoms. Everything literally is made up of atoms. Most of that stuff is just empty space. And the only thing that is giving it that solid form, that appearance, that perspective, is the energy systems that are holding all of that stuff together.
And I think another interesting thing is the perception of scale. We've got no comprehension because of what we see in front of us. And, our knowledge of experience of everything is what we see and in our world around us. The incomprehensible scale of all of this. When you're saying about the ratio of the nucleus to the electron, the gap in between, but that's at such a small level. There are so many billions and billions of atoms in a pinhead or whatever. It's incomprehensible. And that's from the very, very smallest, all the way up to the sort of galactic size of things. That's as incomprehensible. And we're stuck somewhere in the middle with this view of the world that, for however many years, people thought the world was flat because they could only see flat.
Dave, I hate to break it to you, mate. I hate to break it to you, but there are still people in this fucking world who think the Earth is flat.
Yeah. But, because based on what they can see, which isn't necessarily anywhere near the full picture. You said about the atom ratio. I was watching something it was a YouTube video, and a chap was doing the scale of things in the units from a universal galactic solar system size thing. And he was in an American football field, and he had, I think it was, if the sun was sun was a tennis ball, and that was on the goal line. And then he had an Earth that was a golf ball or a table tennis ball, and that was about 10 yards from the sun. And he did that through along the football field for the solar system. And he got to about, let's say, the 3/4 of the way down the pitch, and he was at the end of the solar system. He said, right, now we're going to go to the nearest star on this scale. And I think he got in his car and drove about 250 miles to say, and this is where the nearest star would be on this scale. And you just think that's, because you look up at night and you see the stars in the sky and you think, oh, there they are. It's just ridiculous. So you can't comprehend any of that. You just can't comprehend it. And so we're sat here with this sort of limited view of everything based on what we can see and touch and hear, thinking that that's everything, and then wonder why things happen that we can't explain. Well, we're just nowhere near explaining them, because we just can't comprehend it. It's just, So I'm very much along the lines of just go with it, and if it feels good, it's good. If it doesn't feel good, then don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, we're at that stage now, aren't we, where we know enough to know that actually we know sweet fuck all in the grand scheme of things. Another statistic for perception's sake to give people an idea of the kind of scales we're talking about here. If you take a 5p piece and hold it at arm's length to the sky, behind that 5p piece are around 10,000 galaxies in the observable universe. Just to give some context to what that actually means, like, how many 5p pieces can you fit to cover the whole sky? That's a lot of 5p's. But also, in each one of those 10,000 galaxies, there's estimated to be somewhere between 100 and 200 billion stars.
Yeah, you see, it's just, you can't get your head around it, and all of that coming from sort of, what's termed as a very small space at the beginning. That small space could have been very large. That initial Big Bang was it's just madness to try and even comprehend it. You can't. And like you say, it's almost a case. It is a case. The more you start to understand, or the more you discover, the more you understand that there's even more that you don't know.
Yeah, it's a constant journey of discovery, isn't it? It's I think we'd be very lucky to ever get to a point where we're like, yeah, do you know what? We know everything now.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not to detract from obviously there's been some great discoveries made and some life-changing, world-changing things have happened through wanting to gain that knowledge and understand things. But as I say, back to what we were saying earlier, for me, it's I've got less of a need to know why things work. It's more a case now of, from the things that I've done, it's, well, yeah, was that good? Did I enjoy it? Or, yeah, okay, I'll do some more of that. Did I like it? No. Well, then I probably won't bother. And
that's a great philosophy, not getting too hung up on the bits behind, like you say, how stuff works, and you need to justify, you need to validate it. Does it serve you?
Well, again, exactly, and this again gets back to the metaphor with things like the arrow break, firewalk, and that. You've got to get to a point where you make the decision, and it can be yes or no. It doesn't always have to be just do it. Don't get yourself to a state. And I've seen this where people think you just have to hype yourself up to the point where even if it doesn't work and it hurts and it goes badly wrong, you're so hyped up you don't feel it at the time. You do later. It hits you well out of your brain.
Yeah.
It catches you out. No, it's not. It's get yourself to a point where you're happy with the outcome, good or bad, and then if you're ready to do it, you do it, and if you're not, you don't. But before that point of the decision, all that going over and over, well, what happens if, and what about that, and this might happen, and that might happen, and if this happens, what will they say, and what will someone else think, and all that stuff, that's what stresses people. That's what causes most of the issue. It's not the actual doing the thing, and it's not that moment of decision. It's everything beforehand that's gone on in their heads of trying to work things out or trying to foresee all the possible outcomes and would it be good, would it be bad, and all the what ifs, and that's I think the bit that really holds people back.
I think that's profound, and I totally agree. And I'd like to add to that and say that it's one of the biggest things that holds us back, generally speaking, as people, is yes, we ask those what if questions, and if they were more balanced, I don't think that would be so much of a problem. But I think certainly in my experience, what we tend to do is we ask the really shitty what if, like, what if it goes wrong? What if I look like a twat? What if people laugh at me? What if I look stupid? What if I forget my words? What we don't go, do you know what? Actually, what if it's absolutely amazing? What if it's the best decision I ever made? What would that mean for me in my life? We don't spend enough time there, do we?
Well, no, and this is something that I've realised very recently. Actually, is that we, exactly as you said, we focus so much more on the negative than the positive. And what I've found is when I was doing the firewall training, we did a series of different challenges and experiences, whole range of things, as well as the lots and lots and lots of firewalking. And not everyone could complete every challenge or experience, which was fine. And then after each one, we'd do a little bit of a debrief, how people were, what they got from it, what they felt. And if you were facilitating it for delegates, what you would be doing and what you'd be telling them and talking to them about, because that was part of the instructor training. And what struck me was if you say you've got 20 people in a room and they all step up to do an arrow break or board break or whatever it is, and maybe 2 or 3 of them don't do it. And we all sit down and then you go through it and people will sit there saying, it was fantastic. I got this from it. I got that from it. The 2 or 3 people that didn't do it, when you ask them, the first thing they say is, I'm really sorry that I couldn't do it. They apologize to everyone.
Yeah.
And then they give the reasons why. It was because of this, because of that. And the interesting thing for me was, I don't think anyone else in the room knew who the people were that didn't do it. Because to be honest, they're so wrapped up in what they've just done, having completed it and maybe got a really big shift in something or a completely new perception or belief in themselves. No one sat in the room and looking around going, well, those 3 didn't do it. No one cares. Yeah. No one's noticed. But for those that didn't do it, the biggest thing in their forefront of their mind is explaining to everyone else, because everyone else has done it and they haven't. So they failed, in inverted commas, and they need to explain it to everyone. And yet, I guarantee, if you'd have said beforehand, right, three of the 20 didn't do it. Do we know who those 3 are? The 3 that didn't do it would know. Yeah. I don't think anyone else in the room would have any idea, because they're not focused on it. But for those that didn't do it, or as I say, think they've failed, that's the biggest thing for them. So they're now beating themselves up, and they're then going through all those what ifs, and but no one's bothered. No one else is interested, but they're caught in it.
I think that's a really powerful lesson.
That was actually a big learning for me over the whole 4 days, of how people again perceived failure, or the what ifs are always down the negative side, as opposed to, as you said, well, what happens if it's great? What happens if it's the best thing I've ever done? What happens if I walk away from this and seeing things in a completely different way, or going about life differently? It could be the best thing ever. And if it doesn't work, well, I can do it again.
Amen to that, mate.
Or just don't worry about it.
Well, this is it. But people are very focused on what other people think and what other people's perceptions, or what would they do, and not as focused as perhaps they should be on, well, was it right for me, or was it like... There's this conversation around selfishness and actually looking after yourself, and actually like putting yourself first and taking care of yourself is not selfish, because you how can you give 100% of yourself to others if you don't look after yourself in the first place?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's the oxygen mask from the aeroplane.
Yes.
But, I truly the first time. Yeah, the first time I ever flew, which it was a while ago, but when they gave the thing about the oxygen mask, my first thought was, well, if you were an adult with children and the oxygen mask dropped, why wouldn't you put them all on your kids first? Why would you put your own one? I didn't get it to start with, and then you realise, well, if you pass out, they're never going to get the oxygen mask. So your best bet is to sort yourself out to be able to help others.
Yeah.
But that worrying about other people's thoughts and perceptions and what they're going to say about you, that as I say, that for me is the thing with anything like a firewalk, the arrow break. It's if it's not right, then don't do it. You don't do it just because everyone else is doing it. And that's a strength. That's an inner feeling. Is it right? Isn't it? Actually, no. For me now, and again, no one else cares. No one else was going to they didn't do it. It's just in your head, you're thinking, they'll all know I didn't do it. No, they won't. They're too wrapped up in what they're doing.
Well, they're on their own journey, the same as you're on yours. And that's what they're focused on. So I just want to come to a comment here. Ollie Catamol, quality human beings, he's just saying, I came here for LinkedIn mastery and came back with a PhD in quantum physics. Love it. So let's just refocus, because we're 45 minutes in, and as much as I'd love to talk to you about this for the rest of the interview, we should really focus on some of the other stuff that we decided we were going to cover today. So let's segue into beards with a quick question around your phenomenal beard, and then we'll segue from that into LinkedIn, if that's all right with you. So I have to ask you, how long did it take to grow that fabulous collection of hair on your face?
This is I'm just coming up for 2 years.
Wow.
Just coming up for 2 years. That behind me is about a year ago. Just over a year ago. I think it was January. A year ago January. So.
Gosh.
And there's no plan involved either. I just stopped shaving. This is the truth. No, this is the truth. Right? I decided that I was fed up with shaving, and I'll be honest. I wasn't I'm not the quickest beard grower and stubble grower in the world. So I was probably shaving about, I'll be honest, probably about 3 times a week if I really needed to. And I got fed up with that, and I said, right, I'm going to stop shaving. And then see what happens. And at the point where this takes more time and effort than 3 times a week shaving, it can go. Well, I'll be honest, mate. It needs a lot of attention now, or it gets a lot of attention. It's well past the equivalent of 3 days a week of shaving. But,
what are the pros and cons of having such a phenomenal beard?
The only con, if it is a con, this will sound now. I was going to say,
go for it. Just chuck it out there.
I have to shower every day. Now that may not be a con for some people. I don't know, but I just need to be far more mindful of where I'm going and what I'm doing, just so that it's in a reasonable sort of way and shape. So yeah, I would. The shower this morning was timed to coincide with coming on here and knowing that I was going to be on Facebook Live and on a podcast. So yeah, it needed a little bit of preparation, shall we say?
Fabulous.
But no, there are no. There's plenty of pros. The only con is I need to be more mindful of being ready if I'm going out. I can't just roll out of bed in the morning, sort of wash, jump into some clothes and shoot off. If I'm seeing anyone or doing anything in particular, I need to think, okay, let's get everything in, get it ready. Or if I'm doing something in the evening, if I'm at a networking event, if I'm speaking, then I need to make sure, I can't do this at 8 in the morning and think it's going to be like it at 9 at night. So,
so it deteriorates throughout the day then?
Well, you just need to keep on top of it. Yeah, I've got a few combs and brushes and things that I run through it occasionally, just to. But that might just be me. I don't know.
Well, I have to say, I used to have hair down to my arse, in terms of head hair down to my arse, but from playing in a band, and I've had some decent beards in my past, but nothing quite as impressive as yours.
Mate, thanks.
For me, I just can't be doing with the high maintenance hair anymore. Like I had long hair for 15 years, and it was great, and it was great to headbang with in the rock band and all that kind of stuff. But the deciding factor for me was when I started doing MMA training and started rolling around with big sweaty blokes who were trying to strangle me, and I found that the hair just wouldn't stay in a fucking bobble. I was not only getting strangled by big hairy sweaty blokes, I was also suffocating myself on my hair as I was swallowing it, struggling to breathe. So now I just easy, simple, quick, minimal hassle. That suits me.
There's a little bit of work goes into that, I would imagine.
Yeah, a little bit, but
it's that sort of. It's that sort of, oh, it's so casual, I don't bother with it. Yes, I
do. Well, if I want it to look sharp, then I've got to stick a bit of gel in it. Apart from that, cap goes on and I'm good to go, and that suits me just fine. So let's segue from there straight into networking in LinkedIn, because obviously that's the perfect segue and makes total sense. So,
absolutely,
talk to us about your journey through networking and LinkedIn. Because I know that you were talking, when we were talking before the show, around the power of networking and how you can use that when you do it right to generate great leads, great relationships, and potentially clients as well. And then where LinkedIn fits into all of that.
It's interestingly, I've been in business for myself for. On my own as a consultant for about 12 years. Prior to that, I was in a family business. And the great thing about the family business that I was in was it was a well-established business in a really niche area. So we didn't do any marketing. There was no marketing. People came to us. Contracts came to us. We were so busy, it was ridiculous. And so from that beginning, I didn't get a sort of like a formal business marketing education. Left that and went to work for myself with my own, on my own as a consultant in a very niche industry.
What was before? Let me stop you there. Before you carry on, what was the catalyst that made you decide to leave that family business and go into business on your own?
That was a combination of original owners and directors getting old and retiring or dying. But we won't go into that. They retired. The business was changing. There were some other things going on. I wasn't overly enamoured with the relationships between people in the place, and there were lots of things that happened all at once, and it just seemed to me to be the time to make a decision. And there you go. I spent probably, let's say, a couple of years umming and ahhing and wondering and thinking and trying to work, and it was just stressful. Made the decision. Sold my part of it, moved off, found something else to do, and away I went. So again, it's that what if stuff going on in your mind all the time. For various reasons, it was the right time for me to make that break.
And that's a tough decision to make, isn't it? I ask because it's something I can relate to at a very deep level. I was in a very similar position myself, being in the family business, and myself decided to leave that at the end of 2017 for similar kinds of reasons. Just had reached the point where it was obvious to me that I'd taken it as far as I could go there, and just wanted to, give myself the chance to continue to grow and flourish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you left the family business, moved into
Yeah.
working on it for yourself. So was that LinkedIn back then, or was it
No,
something else?
that was asbestos surveys.
Oh, that sounds very interesting.
So because that came out of the family business was construction based.
Okay.
We had a haulage company. We had a construction based company. So what I knew from construction was that every time we were ever on a job and the word asbestos got mentioned, everything stopped and everyone went home and abandoned the site, and somebody somewhere was then left with a big bill.
Yes.
So I knew that. So I trained and became an asbestos surveyor. So I then ended up in what I again didn't quite appreciate at the time was a very niche industry for asbestos survey, which over the course of a few years, with the few contacts that I already had through sort of word of mouth and referral, I was then had a good business. So again, I still, because of that nicheness and the relationships I was forming and had formed with people, that need for sort of like a big sales or big marketing budget and a process and a strategy didn't ever arise. And when I'm speaking now about networking, I say that I used to say that I didn't have a website, and then I realised I did have a website, but I didn't know I had it. So I think that's even worse. It was something to do with my BT internet email address came with a web page that somebody populated for me, and I completely forgot about.
Oh wow!
So somewhere online is a Holloway asbestos management web page apparently. With someone else's phone number, because the phone number's been, I don't know. So yeah, I got to a point where I was working in niche businesses, but then through, I think I had a need to develop. There was and again, this can go down the woo-woo road a little bit. So I know we've moved away from woo-woo and we're on to serious business.
We can tickle it. We can tickle it every now and then.
I just think that there was something I needed to do, and I didn't quite know what it was, but I needed to expand my horizons. I tell you, it was more about a bit of diversity and wealth creation, if anything. So then I started looking around for other opportunities and other avenues I could go down, and through a variety of events and conversations, I did some training courses in property and property investing and property development, and ultimately that's where, as you mentioned at the beginning, that's where the pension link came from the property education that I was getting.
Okay. And who did you train with in property?
That was with the Property Investors Network.
Okay.
PIN, a chap by the name of Simon Zucci.
Ah, yes.
He's the founder. You've heard of Simon, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did some education with them, and as a result of Simon's courses, we then became aware of I suppose the sort of the personal development side of things that I truly wasn't aware of. So that's what took me down the firewalking route, and that's where all that's come from.
Right.
But along the way, because I was then going to networking events in a much more structured way, or much more frequently at least, began to realise actually it wasn't just about turning up and chatting, because I'm quite happy to chat and have a good time. You know,
I hadn't noticed.
You may have noticed that the way our LinkedIn focused podcast has went off on the track it went off, which I was perfectly happy with. So yeah, networking, I realised, wasn't just turn up, have a chat, and have a good time. There's nothing wrong with that, because you do start to build relationships, but it's not the most time leveraged way of doing that.
Yes.
So I was becoming far more aware of that, of my networking skills, which are probably around communicating with people, getting on with people, and having conversations, that relationship rapport building, but also the fact that you could be more leveraged with an online approach. And that's where my realizations around LinkedIn started to come in. And because people were generally saying, oh, you know, LinkedIn was coming up and we're in conversations, maybe we should connect. And I realized I'd had a LinkedIn profile for about 8 years, and I thought it was all about just connecting with people that you knew in business, and that was it.
Right.
And I hadn't any appreciation of the fact that you can be more proactive with it. And as a marketing tool. And it's only then when I became involved with 3 Degrees Social, Andy Gwynn, Mary Colling, and talking around that and learning around about the LinkedIn, and then made the decision, actually, based on where I was and based on my love of communicating with people and working with people, that I think was then it came another decision, and it was a much quicker decision this time, to leave the asbestos world and go into business coaching, and LinkedIn coaching in particular, because it resonated so much with what I was doing in the environment I was in. And that in turn has then led to other things like doing the firewalk training and taking people firewalking, and the breath work that I want to do more of, and all these other things are just spinning up from it in a way I would never have seen had I not then taken that earlier decision. And as I say, I've just realised now how much quicker and easier the decision to get into the LinkedIn work was, and really focus on that and take what I'd already learned and learn more around it, and especially around the marketing side and how to present yourself. Because I'm not a techie. You may have realised the fact that we were messaging 5 minutes before we got on the podcast, and I'm saying I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and then realised I didn't even have the Facebook app, because I've always just done it on my phone off of the internet browser.
Oh wow!
So that's my lack of techie. So yeah, LinkedIn. I do not work with people in a particularly technical manner of, these are the ins and outs of the platform and all the technical side of algorithms and all the rest of it. It's far more about building relationships, finding who identifying even who your ideal client and your target audience may be, because people don't always even think to know that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work around it. It's all about marketing yourself. It's all about presenting yourself, and then in a way, I suppose, that makes people far more likely to want to have conversations with. Because the best sort of business, and this is what I knew from my sort of earlier days when everything was referral based and word of mouth. The best business leads in the world are the ones that get in touch with you, email you or ring you and say, I was talking to so-and-so and they recommended me, or I was looking for someone that does what you do, and I was told to get in touch with you by whoever.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, because as long as you provide your usual service or your service, and you don't sort of think you can, I suppose there's a tendency for some people maybe to think, oh, well, that's an easy lead. That, I don't need to give it the attention because I haven't had to go out and find it and farm it and work it. Well, actually, that saved you an awful lot of time, effort, and money.
Oh yeah.
Provide that lead with your normal level of service, and they then become a raving fan. They then go off and tell other people, and suddenly you've got more and more people coming to you, which are the best clients of all.
Well, yeah, and to give some context there, a happy customer, if you serve at the highest level, that happy customer is generally speaking going to go away and tell 12 other people. So, the effect, like you say, the effect that can have on your business in terms of keeping that pipeline full and fresh is absolutely phenomenal. But let me take you back just a moment, and because networking in general is something that a lot of people struggle with and get very nervous about. Again, we come back to those what if questions around, what if I look stupid? What if I don't have anything to say? What advice would you give to people who are maybe early on in their networking journey to help them get the most out of those networking meetings? And as you said, make sure that those conversations are more focused around the end goal, the outcome they want, rather than just going to these meetings and having a chat.
Well, in actual fact, that what you said there at the end is partly it. It's actually go with it, have an intent, have an idea of what you're looking to get from the event, rather than just bowl up there. Because that was certainly my thing. Is let's just I'll go. And sometimes you didn't even feel like going. You thought, I've booked it, I've paid for it, I might as well just turn up. Well, have an intent in mind, and it doesn't have to be a massively specific goal. But as long as you've got an intent, and again, not wishing to touch on the woo-woo in any way, shape or form, but if you have an intent that you're looking to find, from a purely property networking perspective, if you're a property investor and you've got some buildings that need some work done, and you're crying out for a good electrician, you can't find a decent electrician, you go along to a property-based networking event thinking, I could really do with a good tradesman, a good electrician. You turn up. You don't go up to everyone in the room and say, are you an electrician? Do you know an electrician? You don't do that. But while you're in the room and your attention's out there, the desire, if you like, at some point you are very likely, if there isn't an electrician in the room, there'll be a plumber, there'll be a tradesman, or there'll be another investor, and the word electrician will get mentioned. You'll be there in the conversation or even next to it, and you'll hear it, and you'll think, hang on, excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Did you just mention you've got a good electrician? Because I'm really looking for one. And suddenly you've found your electrician, purely because you've set the intent. So I'm not saying that's the 100% way to go about it, but go with an intent in mind. And it might be that whatever the networking event is, if you're looking for ideal clients, if you're looking for people to work with, potential partners and people that could maybe you've got a synergy with, that their ideal target audience, they sell to someone in a different way, provide a different service to you, but for the same audience, for example.
Yeah.
So there's a potential for you to work together or have a relationship. Maybe they can pass, some sort of affiliate link or whatever it may be. But if that's what you're looking for when you go to an event, you're far more likely to find something like that. It just having a reason to be there and then enjoying it as well. That's the other thing I say to people: just enjoy yourself. Just relax and enjoy it. Don't think of it as a task or as I think some people, the idea of work and play and work and leisure are two completely separate entities. It's all just living. Just go and have a good time, enjoy it, and have an intent. It doesn't have to be a massive outcome, but just have an intent and just relax and enjoy yourself.
And when you have that outcome formed in your mind and you go along and you're just there to enjoy it and have some fun and connect with people, you actually connect with people much more easily and at a much deeper level as well.
In a more natural level,
yeah.
And then they get a far more of an idea of an impression of who you are, what you're like, and just how you come across. And that's the rapport building. That's where you start to build the relationship, because it's very rarely an overnight thing. I mean, subtly bringing the conversation back to LinkedIn. It's not necessarily about connect with someone and then send them the message of this is my service or this is what I do. And I noticed it more. I think there's a balance to be had between messaging someone directly on any form of social media with that straight away. I think you find it on Facebook as well. People, you send you a friend request, you accept, then you get a messenger message with their service or what they're selling.
Yeah, property investors are abound with that strategy at the moment on Facebook.
It's possibly a bit quick. On the other hand, it's a difference. You're in a different medium to being in a room with someone where you can, say, a networking event that's a regular networking event. You might have to go 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times to meet the same person. Initially, you'll just say, hello, Jamie, because you've got a Jamie badge on. But the next time you go, you recognize the person. So it's, oh, Jamie, hello. You can then know them from across the room. You don't have to be within badge reading distance.
Yeah.
But then you find out a little bit more about them. So it's it is a gradual, that's how you get to know someone. It doesn't happen instantly. And so online, I think you need to maybe strike a bit of a balance. I do say to people when I'm working with on LinkedIn, it's not about having weeks and weeks or months and months of messages and conversation. You do need at some point to find out what they do and let them know what you do. There has to be that. And if it's a question of saying, look, maybe we could get on a call to discuss it, the idea is always to get it off the virtual world, get it off of online and onto offline.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah.
Get a conversation. And sometimes that bit can be quite quick. Look, you've connected on LinkedIn. You've messaged them. Thanks very much for the connection. Then a message, look, I noticed, because you've looked at their profile, I noticed you do this, I noticed you do that. This is what I do. Wondered if there might be worth a conversation. Are you open to having a conversation? Because I think there could be something in it. So, 2 or 3 messages asking for that phone conversation or Skype or even, if you can get a meeting, even better. But get to that point where you're conversing. Because then you've got more chance, A, of building the relationship, and B, actually working out whether there is something that, value in either working together or with the services that you offer.
Yeah, and sometimes you do get those people who will come towards you, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook. I mean, I had one of my accelerator clients sent me a message out of the blue on LinkedIn. Hey, this is our business, this is what we're struggling with right now, seeing that that's kind of what you do on your profile, be great to find out more. So jumped on a call straight away, and within a few days was a client on one of my 6-figure accelerators, which was a great result. And that's in the ideal world what you want. You want people coming towards you because of the content you're putting out and the way your profile's set up and all that kind of stuff. But I'm interested in your point of view and opinion on that. You mentioned there about people connecting straight away, and then you instantly get this sales message around, hi, I'm this, I do this is my service, let's jump on a call. And there's two schools of thought when it comes to opening with a message when you connect. So what's your thoughts on, like, when you connect with somebody who's new in your network, should you connect with a note, with a message, or should you wait till you connect and then send a message? And what's the best approach for that message? Should you just be going, boom, here's, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, do you want it? Or should it be more, hey, like, let's just get to know each other, what you're all about, and ask some great questions?
Yeah, my first thought is somewhere in between, which isn't very... A lot of it will be dependent on how time sensitive you are with your service and whatever it is that you do, and how much time you've got. Because for me, it's certainly avoiding spending a lot of time just messaging backwards and forwards. So in terms of the connection request, if I'm looking to connect with someone on LinkedIn, then I will always send the connection request with a message, just explaining briefly why I think it would be great to connect with them. If someone connects with me and I accept the connection request, I will always thank them for connecting, and then generally it's a standard message, great to connect. At one point, I actually used to start with, I just wondered what interested you to do so, because if it's just a connection request that I've received with no message, I've got no context as to why they've looked to connect with me. Yeah. So I'd ask them that. I'd say, I'm just interested to know, happy to connect, just interested to know if there was any particular reason. And it was surprising how few people actually replied to that. And then you think, well, yeah.
Wow.
Which I actually didn't mind, really, because, I mean, part of the one, I suppose the one good thing, the one strength of having a large network, lots of connections, is that it's, with a large number of first degree connections, you've got an even wider reach of second degree, and then your third degree is even larger.
Yes.
So if you're like me, that you use searches within LinkedIn to search for people that you might like to connect with, the more connections you've got, the further your sort of search reaches. And if you're posting material frequently, the further that's likely to go.
Yeah.
That, to me, is probably the only good thing about having a large number of connections, because what LinkedIn does struggle with is that individual engagement with people. So you can have thousands of connections, but it's not easy to engage with those people individually. I've lost my train now. Right. So I was people would send me a connection invite, or like to connect. I'd say ask them if there was. That was my first thing. Just interested to know. What I'm finding more commonly now is that people will send a connection request, I'll accept it, and now it tends to be something along the lines of, it's great to connect, and bear in mind, if there's anything I can ever do for you, anything you want to know about LinkedIn, because that's what I do, because because it's on my profile.
So you wouldn't repeat that in the message and go, like, basically regurgitate all the stuff on your profile. You just assume that they've been and read.
This is an interesting way of finding out whether people have done what you did, which was have a good read of my profile before we started speaking, because you clearly had from what you said when you introduced me.
Yeah.
So again, you're almost filtering people to agree, because you'll get the messages that will say, I saw your profile and thought there might be some synergy in what we do. Great.
Vague.
Well, then you'll know from my profile what I do, and if you don't know from my profile what I do, then your message isn't really sincere, is it? So I've now started a bit of a filtering process as to where this conversation is likely to go, and have you just connect with me purely because you want to sell something to me without really finding out what my need is, because that's a big thing. It's everyone's got a service or a product. We're all selling something. We're all doing something to help people or to give them something. but it's whether they've actually got the need for it, and how much, and you know, that's the thing to establish as well. I would say a lot of that is dependent on the time the person's got to be on LinkedIn. In an ideal world, a couple of messages, because not everyone at the other end is a. This is something that I tend. It's easy for me to forget because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and I'm on it a lot and I'm using it all the time. Not everyone else is, and you can send people a message and they might not look at their messages for weeks at a time. So again, it's just from my perspective, anyone I'm working with, it's the big thing is to identify what their time constraints are or their availability is, and how much they want to be on LinkedIn, for example, because then you can tailor the messaging sequence to suit their requirements for how long they want to be messaging people before they actually look for a conversation, and how long is it worth spending with someone before you got to disregard, you got to filter them out and move on to someone else. Qualify someone else who's more likely to have a conversation, and it's so much dependent on what your availability, your time commitment is, and how that fits in, and how LinkedIn fits in with the rest of your business.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely not. Sorry, I was going to say it's absolutely not the silver bullet. I am never going to stand in front of an audience or talk to anyone and say this is all you need.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work that way. Not nowadays. With so many different avenues, and it's a tool, and it's part of your toolbox, and it's a fantastic tool if you use it to be used in an effective way. It's a fantastic tool, but every business is different, and everyone's time commitment and availability and budget and everything else is different. So I certainly would say, if anything, it's just one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, I agree. And effective marketing is always going to come down to doing a bit of everything, whether that's direct mail, whether that's email marketing, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook. If you can, obviously the splits, like you said, will be different depending on your industry and your business.
Absolutely.
But generally speaking, you should be utilizing a split of all of them to get people where they are, right? Peter O'Reilly's just come on. He's on the live feed today, so a big shout out to you, Peter. And he said, Duck's Soup allows you to automatically send connection requests with up to 3,000 a month with 2 automated messages. What are your thoughts and feelings around stuff like that?
I would say LinkedIn's terms and conditions say that you should not use any automation.
Oh, okay.
So you need to be careful for a start. And as far as I'm aware, and I did mention earlier, I'm not techie. There are several different types of automation that you can get that will help you with your mass messaging on LinkedIn. I believe 99% of them are Chrome plugins, and LinkedIn can detect Chrome plugins. So LinkedIn will look for huge activity, and depending on what type of account you've got, LinkedIn is more likely. Put it this way, I think the less your subscription to LinkedIn is, the more likely they are to pull you on mass usage.
Right.
I'd certainly be careful, but it's an interesting one, because I know there are some people in my line of working with people on their LinkedIn that absolutely say you should not use any automation, full stop. And yet my take on that is I've got a Word I've used a Word document for years that's got some standard sort of replies and things so that I don't have to keep typing.
Yeah.
So I'll copy and paste stuff into LinkedIn messages at times. The LinkedIn itself on the messaging section will let you do a thumbs up and even populate some of your favorite phrases. Thanks, thank you, and things like, which I'm sure it's picked up from some of your messaging, because I don't think we've all got the same. So there's always going to be a degree of automation. Things like the softwares, you just need to be aware of the fact that LinkedIn doesn't condone them. In fact, I think I'll even say it's not allowed in their terms and conditions. LinkedIn can detect a lot of the automations from the way that they work, and it's all well and good sending thousands of messages, but then I question, why would you be doing it, and what are you looking to achieve from it, and what's the outcome you're looking for? It's just because you can do something doesn't mean it's a good idea. And I know, again, that's where you can go down the route of appearing very spammy to the people that you're messaging, in which case, is that purely then just a numbers game? That if you send out 3,000 messages a day, but you get a 1% interest, so those 30 people are worth the that again is around what you're looking to achieve, and is just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work or be useful for you.
Sure, that makes sense.
So yeah, I
was just going to say.
Sorry,
go on. No, you go. I insist.
No, I was just going to say I would be very wary of some of the softwares. Yeah.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask, what is your thoughts around rather than sending a text message, to send a video or audio message?
You know, that's something. It's easier to do on the mobile version, and that's another interesting. I won't divert from your question, but it just reminded me of something. But at the moment, it's not very frequent, so you're going to certainly get more of an instant sort of oh, that's interesting, yeah, okay, and response in that sense. And I do wonder, a bit like the live feed and video feed to LinkedIn, that's a lot newer than it is on Facebook. But now every time you go on your LinkedIn feed, everyone's popped up on a video.
Yeah.
So you it suddenly becomes more of the norm, and then it's less. It reduces the impact. So certainly at the moment, yeah, it's a great tool because it's got, if nothing else, it's got impact, because very few people are using it, and possibly because it's more. I think certainly the voice one is on the mobile version.
Yeah. And
not on the desktop, depending on what your configurations and settings are. Which that was what reminded me about this. Is the other thing to think about is that personally, most of my stuff's done in the office on the desktop, and it's a big screen, and I find that a whole lot easier. Mobile versions are bound to becoming more popular and more prevalent, and people are more often likely to be on their mobile version.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about with any of your presentation, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn. Interestingly, on all Facebook, I only ever do on my phone. LinkedIn, I only ever do on my computer. So that's something I've just
but
realised.
Dave, as you shared with us earlier, when you say do Facebook on your phone, you mean you log in through the bloody browser?
Yeah.
I think you'd find it a lot easier actually using the dedicated Facebook app that was designed specifically for that purpose.
Yeah, you know, I think I did for a while. I got annoyed with all the pings and the pongs of the things flashing up.
Just turn them off. Turn them off.
Well, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. You see, that's how technical I am. I'm possibly not coming across in the best light as the online man. But as I said, it's, you know, when I work with people, it's not on a technical level.
Yeah, sure.
It's all about getting results, and results is getting business. That's really what we're all about.
Yeah, and it's not the technical stuff that people struggle with, is it? You know, in terms of sending a message and accessing the devices and all that kind of, like, it's second nature to people these days. Where people struggle is, how do we do it? How do we what do we say? Do we message then? Do we message after? Like, that's the stuff that people need to know.
Absolutely, and it's interesting because, you know, tying back to what we were talking about earlier, I run workshops, and one of the things I say at the beginning is part of what we're going to do today is lose the I know and the I know mentality. And in fact, I even toyed with the idea. I never did do it, and I always toyed with the idea of getting a charity box and putting it in the middle of the table, in the middle of the room, and saying, right, we're going to lose the I know, which is every time something new is suggested, you tend to go, oh yeah, but I know I can't do that, or I know it won't work for me, or I know about it, but it's just, you know, it's no point. And then I say, we'll run the workshop, and 3 hours in, you know, anyone that says I know at any point now we've mentioned it, and with a reason why they won't or can't do something, we'll put £1 in the charity box. Because I guarantee, as we could run through the workshop, at some point, if we may be talking about video, you know, video testimonial, do you get video testimonial? And someone will go, oh, yeah, I know, but, you know, it's just not worth doing, or something. Oh, that's £1 you own, charity box. But it's that I know it's losing that I know and being prepared to embrace at least making, or at least trying these things and seeing if they work and checking if they work. And if they work, great. And if they don't, you don't do them. And that ties back to that. It's that decision-making process again. Here's a suggestion. This could work. Oh, no, I know it won't work. Well, then obviously it won't work because you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, give it a go and see what happens. Measure what, test and measure. Check it out. And if you get great results, keep bloody doing it. And if you don't, well, then tweak it or do something else. But don't just go, I know it won't work.
Well, you either discover something that does work and produces great results, or you discover a way that you don't do it and you just don't do that again. Either way is a win-win, because you don't want to be doing stuff that doesn't work. But it's okay to do things in business and in life that don't work, because that's part of the learning journey, part of the discovery process.
It's all right to fail. Learn from it. Adjust. Carry on.
Yeah.
It's fine. In fact, I don't know who the saying comes from, but there's some entrepreneur that said, I just wished I'd learned to fail faster, because the more failures, if you keep going, you tweak everything and learn from each failure, you just get better and better and better. And then eventually, bang, you're through. You've done it. You're doing whatever you need to do.
Well, that's it. That's how you create that overnight success, isn't it? Which, by the way, it doesn't exist. But it's all about going through failure after failure after failure after failure until you get to where the realization of that vision. But you're not gonna just wake up one morning, have an idea, and go, boom, I've nailed it.
So much of martial arts is repetition.
Yes.
And I know someone that was doing a form of martial art at one point just said, why do we just keep doing the same thing over and over again? But when it came to it and something happened, when that instant reflex to do whatever it is you'd been practicing over and over again. But that's repetition, and that's whilst you're doing that repetition, you're constantly, even subconsciously, you're tweaking your technique, you're adjusting, you're finding out that doesn't quite work, and you change the angle, or you change your body stance, or whatever it might be, and it gets better and better and better. And like you say, it's not an overnight success. After lots of training and lots of practice and lots of tweaking and preparation, you get good at it.
Yeah, and even the most basic things, whether it's martial arts, business, or life. Throwing a punch. Now, I've thrown now thousands of punches, tens of thousands of punches. I could still work on a punch for a couple of hours. Just one session, just work on punching technique for a good couple of hours, and I still wouldn't be perfect, because there's always those tiny nuances, those little things that you can adapt, adjust, and fine tune to make it just that little. And we're talking like percentages, like fractions of degrees of separation here, but it's those tiny little bits, it's the fine tuning that you do over periods of years that sets you apart, that makes you great when you were good. That's the difference. Is it's not a huge difference. Like, great is here and good is literally just below here. It's just a little reach further. Yeah absolutely. And interestingly, saying that, this is one of the things I'd say to people from a LinkedIn perspective. If I'm working with someone, the beginning of any program is those initial steps, those fine tweaks and little things that might only be simple, straightforward little steps, but when you add them all together, the overall effect. Somebody once said to me, "Oh, your LinkedIn profile's fantastic," or words to that effect. And I said, "Oh, well, really?" I said, "Well, it's probably more that I've actually spent time, or invested time more accurately, invested time in actually filling all the fields in, populating it, giving information, giving people the opportunity to find out more about me and what I do and how I do it. That's what I've done." And all the contact details and all the other bits and pieces are all there. It's a bit like dominoes. You line all the dominoes, putting each domino down is easy. But it's only when you push the first one and they all, then, the pattern emerges as they all topple together, that you get the result that you were looking for. So, like you say, it's about putting in the work up front, investing some time initially, small little things and tweaks and adjustments, doing things, seeing the result, adjusting it, seeing the result, and all that together, you end up with a much better result. This is it. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about, like,
No.
I say this a few times, but it's the small things. It's all the little things compounding over time that creates the really big effect. Whether that's a positive or negative effect, it works both ways. It's not about the big things, because the big things they're fairly easy to deal with. You can see them. They're the elephant in the room, and they get dealt with. You know, if you've got like a member of staff who's like not performing and they're really, really not good at what they do, like they're not around long, you get rid of them fairly quickly. Whereas the real damage is caused when you have that member of staff who is doing little things, like there's nothing wrong with the way they do their job or the results that they produce, but it's maybe that the way they interact with their colleagues there's just something about it that isn't friendly and isn't conducive to a cohesive team. And
yeah.
Maybe they never make the tea. Maybe they're always 5 minutes late. You know, it's again, doesn't really have a massive impact on their ability to effectively do their job. But because it's all these little things that stack, they're not sackable, so they're still there, and they stack and they stack and they stack over time. And then before you know it, there's lots of bad feeling. There's a bad environment. The culture starts to slip, and that can kill you. That can kill your team. That can kill your business very, very quickly if you don't handle it.
Absolutely, yeah. I completely agree. It's hard to spot as well.
Definitely. So we've talked about the initial contact and going out, and obviously you've got to be clear on who your ideal client is, what's your target market, and then go out and connect with them. Talked a little bit about the messaging process. What's the content strategy that sits behind that? I mean, can you just set up a LinkedIn profile, tweak that over time to make it awesome, and then just go out connecting with people? Or do you need to be putting out regular content? You know, what's the balance between just having a profile and connecting and building a network and actually feeding them with value?
It's, again, I'd come back to saying it really, to me, depends on what your outcome is. Again, what you're looking to achieve, which will partly be driven by your availability, your time commitments, and what else you're doing, and partly maybe to what you've already got in the way of collateral to be posting. And if you are going to be posting, it's the consistency around that as well. It's, as I said earlier, especially with LinkedIn, the live video I'm getting messages every day now that someone's gone live on LinkedIn, to the point where, again, it loses its impact if you're not careful. Everyone in the newsfeed on LinkedIn has now pretty much got video. That's great, but if you're going to provide content and you're going to provide regular content, then there's a commitment involved. So you need to be thinking about what's the outcome that you're looking for. And if you, as I said, if you've already got lots of collateral, lots of marketing material and stuff that you can drip feed and you can put out, that's great. If maybe you've got a team, again, depends. If you're on your own, for me, I've got a choice sometimes. I was writing articles, and then it was pointed out to me, well, why are you writing the article? If you're writing the article so that you can put a link in the article when you do your monthly email to all your clients, what's the time you spent on the article? Or are you writing the article just to give information that you're going to put out on your... So again, it's working out what the reason is, what the outcome is, what the time or financial commitment may be, and is that right for you? Yeah. One thing that springs to mind, and especially if you're going to be posting content, again, it's that consistency. So that a lot of it, again, is just that consistently in people's attention, in their eye line as you pop up, because the feed's a busy place anyway. And I'd touch. It reminds me of a marketing formula. This is my gift. My gift to you for today. Right, a marketing formula. So if anyone's even considered a pen and paper for this podcast, here's a chance to actually write something down. I think
people are busy picking up pieces of their brain from around the room that they're residing in after we've just blown their minds.
But here's a formula, and it's MA times RS times C equals R.
MA times RS
times C
equals R.
Okay. And that stands for, right, I won't ask you to guess, because we'll be here all day.
I bet I could come up with some very creative answers.
Yeah, you can imagine. We'll leave it there. Right. Massive action of the right stuff consistently equals result.
Boom. Gold dust.
Right. So from your marketing perspective, let's say we're talking about posts on LinkedIn or Facebook for that matter, video posts, right? Massive action. You're going to film yourself either while you're walking along or in a studio setting, whatever. You're going to massive action. You're going to film yourself, which for some people would be a massive step anyway.
Yeah.
Just to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Losing that I know of, I won't come across well. I won't sound right. I won't know what to say and all the rest of it. Right. So there's your massive action. Film a video. Right stuff. Well, some content or some call to action at least, or some indication of something that you're giving to people, so that there's again, you could do a video, but it's in the dark, no one can hear you, poor sound quality, so it needs to be of a reasonable quality and have a message. Yeah Consistently. So you've taken the opportunity, you've got a tripod, you've got a microphone, you've made some effort. You've produced your video, you've thought about it, you've got a call to action, people know what to do, you send it out once. And what result are you going to expect? So that's when you think about the consistency point. Are you going to do that every day, every week, 2 weeks, monthly? How's it going to work? And if it's going to be daily, are you going to commit to that daily content? Because you can guarantee the one day you don't do it is the day that people will be going, oh, well, where were you?
Yeah.
We were waiting for you and you weren't there. So it's that consistency side of it. When we're talking about content and things on LinkedIn, if we're going to be posting stuff, it's what's your consistency going to be? How often are you going to be doing it? How regularly? And will you stick to that?
So it's better. Sorry to interrupt, but what you're saying there is it's actually better to commit. Like if you know you can only commit to one piece of content a week on a Monday at 5 o'clock, then just do one piece of content a week at 5 o'clock, rather than trying to commit to 5 days, like once every day, and then missing Thursday this week and missing Tuesday next week and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just dotting around then. Yeah.
So pick a day or a set of days, pick a time, and get your content out on that day at that time consistently without fail every week. Yeah,
that's it. It's good to say. Massive action, right stuff, consistently, results. It works.
Brilliant. I think that's a real gem to end on there and wrap things up. I'm conscious of time.
I've got no idea what the time is.
It's currently coming up to, this will have no relevance to people listening back on the audio, but it's 20 to 1 in our world here.
Here's one for you. Yes, does time exist?
Oh, God. We'll be really going down the rabbit hole on that one. It's been fabulous talking to you, Dave. I must admit,
I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
I've had a really good time. I had no idea we were going to go into some of the areas today that we have done, but it's been really good fun and been really insightful talking to you. So I'm just going to finish with 3 quick fire questions just to wrap things up, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell people a bit more about how they can connect with you. I'd love to know, firstly, what your morning routine looks like.
Oh, okay. Morning routine. I get right. Okay. Out of bed, drink of water. I have a 2-minute exercise routine that I go through. I then have some breakfast, and I then got a 15 minutes where I listen to a short. It's not really a meditation. It's just a short soundtrack that I've got, and then I just sit in quietness for about 15 minutes, just sitting and letting things bubble away, and then crack on with whatever's top of the list to get on with.
Awesome, nice way to ease yourself into the day. So my second question,
absolutely ease, yeah.
My second question is, who inspires you the most and why?
Oh, who inspires me the most and why? There's a question. Do you know, for a quick fire, that's going to take a bit of answering, I think. I've got different people in different areas of my life that inspire me. That's the honest truth. From a purely business perspective, and Andy Gwynn that I work with at 3 Degrees is truly inspirational. From a more of a mindfulness perspective, because you might have gathered, I've got a bit of a mindfulness side to me. I work with Sanjay Shah. He's incredible at what he does. I'm fortunate, and I mentioned the property training with Simon Zucci. Those 3 people, they're world class at what they do, And it's only very recently that I've realised I've been fortunate enough to be working with some absolutely world-class trainers. So, and the people at the Fit Training as well, again, world-class in what they do. So they all inspire me in different ways and to do different things, which I'm actually really more grateful for than I realise, I think. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So thank you for asking that.
My pleasure. And finally, on the quickfire, I'd love to know if you could go back to your former self when you were in your teens and give yourself just one piece of advice to help shape your behaviours and your actions and how you approach life in the years following. What would that one piece of advice be?
Oh, mate, you are far better than you think you are. Simple as that. You are far better than you think you are.
I love that. Love it.
That's it.
Short, concise, and to the point.
Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant.
I wish I had known that. I still struggle with it.
Well, it's good to know, and I appreciate your answer. But I'm afraid I don't have a time machine, so we'll just have to leave it there. And I mean, the biggest motivation for me in asking that question is I think it's really interesting. Asking retrospectively, like what would you say to yourself? How would you have lived life differently? And the hope for me is that the young people or the younger people who listen to this show, who are still in that stage of starting out in life, can hear what more established, mature people say when they look back and kind of hopefully take some of that on board and can get the benefit of that without having to go through the same stuff that we perhaps did.
Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Dave, you've been fantastic, mate. The only thing left is to throw the floor over to you, sir, so you can let these wonderful viewers know, and thank you very much to the audience, by the way, everyone who's come on the live feed today and got involved, and everybody who downloads the audio. We love you. Thank you so much. But Dave, just take the floor for a moment and let everybody know where they can connect with you, where they can find out more about what you do. I assume you're on LinkedIn, and how can they work with you?
Well, the fact that we connected on LinkedIn because I sent you the connection request and said I'm always available for coming on podcasts. So that was my massive action. Yeah, there you go. I set a target to start sort of promote myself more. So there you go. So look, if anyone would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, absolutely, Dave Holloway, Dave Holloway 01. If you want to use the LinkedIn URL, that will take you straight to my profile. But I'm pretty sure I would be disappointed if you couldn't put Dave Holloway into your search and I'll come up. And again, if you're connected with Jamie and me are connected, so you can find me through Jamie anyway. And absolutely, I would more than happy to talk to anyone about how they could be using LinkedIn more effectively, optimizing their profile, getting more business from LinkedIn, because that's what I do with LinkedIn. I'm also more than happy to talk to people about their mindset, their confidence, their beliefs, and using that to be more effective in their business. I think that's the key, and more effective in their life, because at the end of the day, life, business, work, work-life balance, to me, that's a bit of a misnomer, really, because you've just got a life. I'll say just got a life. That's a massive understatement. It's your life. So, whether it's work, business, pleasure, play, whatever it is, it's just approaching it in a lovely way. So that's my driver from now on. Just enjoy everything. Thoroughly enjoyed today. So connect with me on LinkedIn. You could email me.
What's your email address,
Holloway, Dave Holloway at 3degreessocial.co.uk.
Nice, fantastic.
The 3 degrees of separation. So I'll just be delighted to connect with anyone, connect with everyone, have a chat, find out more about what we could do. Love to help anyone with their business or their life in general.
Fantastic. So if you're interested in anything that Dave's talked about today, ladies and gents, and by golly, have we covered a wide range of subjects today, feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn. All of the links to Dave's profiles will be in the show notes when this is released on iTunes et al. So please do go over and connect with him. And look, if you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile and get more leads, more clients, and build better relationships through LinkedIn, I would say Dave is definitely your man. So Dave, thank you so much for today, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Jamie, mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's been fantastic, and we must do this again sometime because I've had such a good time.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, look forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, look, Dave, have a phenomenal weekend, mate, and stay in touch, and I'll speak to you soon, buddy.
Absolutely, mate. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Goodbye
Dave.
to everyone as well.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Fabulous. Well, that was a lot of fun. That was really good fun. I really enjoyed that, and I hope you did too. So yeah, please do go and connect with Dave. Come connect with me as well if you're not already, and if you're looking for Dave and can't find him, then connect with me, and well, just hit the links in the show notes. That's the answer, guys. So quickly then, just to touch again, if you're in business, if you are in construction, and by construction I mean, look, if you're an electrical contractor, HVAC, air conditioning contractor, if you're a joinery firm, if you're shop fitters or ground workers, I am speaking to you. More importantly, if you are the business owner of said construction business, if you're a director, if you're an MD, CEO, anything like that, then this is gonna absolutely change your life. Get into the App Store, get onto the Play Store, and download Bulletproof Business, or just search Bulletproof and it will come up with the Bulletproof app. You'll know it's mine because it's got a big B in the middle of a bullet hole. It looks sick, but I tell you now, what's even more sick than that is the content, the functionality, the tools that you find inside that app. It is a private social media network designed by my great friends and partners over at Expert Apps to give a private social media network where there is pure value and solely business content that is going to help you take your business to the next level. It is all about giving you great advice, great coaching, and give you access to a lot of the tools, features, and functionalities, not only that I use personally, but that I use with my clients in my Business Accelerator programs that are super, super effective. You know, creating results like 400% increase in revenue, 250% increase in profit. You know, these are the kind of numbers and these are the kind of results that we're getting for business owners who are otherwise fighting fires 24/7, frustrated, pissed off, you know, just annoyed that things never seem to quite go the way they want to. You know, maybe you're wanting to grow your business, maybe you have these big dreams and aspirations for hitting 7 figures or getting to multi-7 or even 8 figures in your business. Well, sometimes, look, I've been there. We just get to a point where we hit that glass ceiling and it just feels like everything is a slog, everything is a struggle. Look, if that's you, if any of that resonates, get yourself into Bulletproof, the app. It is absolutely going to change your life. Not only is there all of my amazing business coaching content in there that is absolutely going to help you in terms of your mindset and your strategies and tactics around growing your business, but it's also going to have fully automated accountability. It's going to have a planner built into the app. It's going to have quizzes and training, and just like the functionality of this thing is crazy. And it's no ads, no bullshit, no people posting about their dinners. It is a tailored social media network just for you that comes with it like massive functionality in terms of the tools and the business calculators that we're working on getting built and put in there now. Get in there. It's in beta testing phase, so you can be one of the very first to get access to the app and help us test it. And look, give me your feedback. Tell me what you want more of. Tell me what isn't working so well. Tell me what kinds of tools and features you want to see in there. And between me and the team at Expert Apps, we will make that happen to give you a phenomenal result in your business and serve you at a higher level than any coach, I would argue, has ever been able to serve you before. So please do go and download the Bulletproof app, Bulletproof Business, or just search Bulletproof on the Play Store or the App Store and get in there now. Next week, I have a really, really, really cool guest coming on the show. Next week, we are welcoming Lindy Harding. She's coming on the show to talk about her experience of jumping out of a plane and hitting the ground hard after her parachute failed to open. That's right, folks. This phenomenal woman jumped out of a fucking plane and the parachute didn't open. So she hit the ground and she lived to tell the tale, which is absolutely, like, her story is phenomenal. We, as you'll know if you follow me, one of my favourite things to do is to go out hiking in the mountains, particularly in the Welsh mountains with my best mate Kevin Benison, and sometimes we'll go out with our hiking group, which is a bunch of entrepreneurs, and we'll go out around once a month and hike through the mountains. And we were out up Cader Idris, it was quite a while ago now actually, I think it was a couple of months ago, and we were somewhere near the top and we came across this woman, Lindy. So we met her while we were out hiking and we got chatting to her. We kind of welcomed her into our group because she was hiking alone. And we got chatting to her, and I had a really good conversation with her about, where she's at, what inspired her to get out climbing mountains, and what she'd been through that had led her to where she is today. And I was just left with this impression of someone who was so inspired and so inspiring, and could the story that she has, what she's been through, like jumping out of a plane and then your parachute not opening, what that must have felt like to go through that experience, to hit the ground thinking that you're going to die, and then to be left with a body that is so bloodied and broken that you literally have to relearn everything and rebuild yourself from the ground up. And she is very graciously agreed to come on to the show and talk about her story and talk about her experiences and the lessons that she's learned from going through all of that I'm sure you will not only find interesting but super valuable. And there are going to be some massive lessons for you to take away and implement in your life to live a better life, to be more grateful, to just be more of who you are. And so I'm really looking forward to welcoming Lindy on the show next week. So she's going to be coming on. Please do connect with me and join in with the Facebook live feed for that one, Friday the 26th of July at 10:30 a.m. It's going to be awesome. So until next time, ladies and gents, have a fantastic day, weekend, night, morning, whatever it is, wherever it is, wherever you are. And until next time, stay optimized.